To do this, we are going to need to create a difficulty score based on 4 different metrics. The first metric we're going to look at is the team strength before the beginning of their UEFA Champions League winning campaign. We are going to do this using UEFA coefficients. UEFA coefficients are based on the performance of each club in the past 5 years of UEFA competitions, whether that's the Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League. Here are this season's top 6 UEFA coefficients. As you can see, they are not perfect. Roma is not the 6th best team in Europe right now, and PSG should not be 4th. But the other 4 teams are close to where they should be, and it is the best we have. So, these are the UEFA coefficients of every Champions League winner. But who, according to the coefficients, had the biggest outside chance? 1998 Real Madrid. At this point in history, Real Madrid had not won a European Cup since 1966, and the 5 years prior to this they'd been in the Champions League once. But in 1998, a team managed by a recently hired Jupe and led in appearances by Roberto Carlos, Clarence Seedorf, and a 21-year-old Raúl managed to win the whole thing, beating both finalists from the previous year in the semi-final and the final, leading to their 7th European title and first of the UEFA Champions League era. But 41 days after their victory, Jupe was sacked because of a phone call with the then owner Lorenzo Sand, where 1 week before the final he said he could no longer work with those sons of bitches. Now we have the first metric for our difficulty score. Next is the opponent's strength of opposition faced, which again we will use the UEFA coefficients of all the teams that they played. But first, a quick history of how to win the UEFA Champions League. 1993 had 2 rounds, then a group stage to get to the final. In 1994 a semi-final was added to this format. Then between 1995 and 1999 the group stage became the first thing on the calendar, then 3 knockout rounds. Between 2000 and 2003 there were 2 group stages and then 3 knockout rounds. Finally, from 2004 to 2024 it was a group stage followed by 4 knockout rounds. Using ChatGPT, I've created a formula to figure out opponent's strength for each Champions League winner. The formula adds more weight to the later rounds of the competition and divides it by the total weight to keep it proportional. For example, this would be 2010 Inter Milan's opponent's strength score. In a graph, this is what each winner's opponent's strength score looks like. The lower down you are, the more difficult your opponents were. If we look at it in terms of format, there is no other way to say it. The first 2 years are incomparable because they were not playing the best teams in Europe. 93 Marseille and 94 AC Milan were playing against the best team from each European country. For example, 5th place Marseille played 131st placed Glentoran from Northern Ireland. That's the second metric we need for our difficulty score. The next thing we need to look at is goal difference. This is relevant because we get to see which teams made it look easy and which teams scraped their way through. To calculate a goal difference score and make it fair, we need to divide the goal difference by the total number of games played and multiply it by 10 to make it proportional. Here's a graph showing each club's goal difference score. The lowest was 2003 AC Milan, who in 17 games scored 24 goals and conceded 16. The highest, well, that was 2020 Bayern Munich, who scored 43 goals and conceded 8 in only 11 games because their quarter-final and semi-final were only one leg due to COVID. They scored more goals in the knockout rounds than 3 teams in their entire campaigns. We now only need one more metric to calculate our difficulty score. The final thing we're going to look at is the performance in the final, the most important match. If a team had a venue advantage -10. If a team had a venue disadvantage +10. If the team came back from a goal down or more +10. If the team won on penalties -10 because there is luck involved in penalties. Only 2 winning teams had a venue advantage in their Champions League final, with Juventus a 1996 campaign being played in Rome, and Borussia Dortmund's win over Juventus the following year in Berlin. Similarly, there were only 2 teams who had a venue disadvantage who went on to win the Champions League. Barcelona 2011 at Wembley and 2012 Chelsea played this final in not only the home country but in Bayern Munich Stadium. 6 teams came back from a goal down in the final, with 3 of them going on to win in regulation time or extra time and 3 winning on penalties. Finally, there were 9 teams that won on penalties. Now we have everything we need to find the most difficult UEFA Champions League. Oh boy. 2 times 100 minus the winner's coefficient plus 600 divided by the square root of the opponent's strength score plus 1.5 times the square root of the goal difference score plus the final bonus, and we get our difficulty score. For example, this is 2014 Real Madrid's score. In first place is 1999 Manchester United, followed closely by 2009 Barcelona and then 2022 Real Madrid. Then at the bottom you see a lot of the teams are from when the Champions League format was easier. Having only made it to the semi-final once in the past 5 seasons, Manchester United had a UEFA coefficients rank of 11th. After not losing in a very difficult group, they beat Inter Milan in the quarters, then a Juventus team that had reached the Champions League final for the past 3 years, and then came back from a goal down to beat Bayern Munich in regulation time, one of only 2 teams to do so. Let's look at this in a graph, and we can see that over time it has become more difficult to win the Champions League. Especially recently, as the 3 previous UEFA Champions Leagues all rank in the top 8 in difficulty. Thanks for watching.